Good afternoon. Myself, Dr. B Pawar. I am an assistant professor in botany. Today we are going to study the plant physiology, and in which the topic is we are going to discuss that is the plant respirations. So, two most important particulars of the life is the supply of the material required for the growth and the development of the organism. And the energy is required for the various processes in the life. These processes include the absorption of mineral salt, then the stomatal activity, then photosynthesis, then reproductions, then development, and all these things are carried out within the plant body. In your syllabus, the topic which are included, that is the structure of mitochondria, respiratory substrate, then the types of the respiration, then mechanism of the aerobic respiration, glycolysis, TCA cycle, electron transport system, chemoosmotic hypothesis of ATP synthesis, balance sheet of ATP generation and respiration, and significance of respiration. So initially we have just discussed about the one important metabolic activity, that is the plant physiology, and in plant physiology, that is the photosynthesis. So it is the mechanism in which the energy material, that is the carbohydrate food material, is produced with the help of the sunlight, chlorophyll pigment, water and carbon dioxide, and that will be utilized by the plant for their metabolic energy as a substrate. So in respiration, these organisms are they may be heterotrophic organism, or there may be a heterotrophic organism. All these living organisms are carried out this respiration activity for getting the energy molecules energy from the this particular substrate. They require this energy for their different types of the mechanisms. Heterotrophic organisms and all living organisms use this energy released after the hydrolysis of the ATP molecule, which are formed from the carbohydrate food material by the process of the respiration. So ATP is nothing but the adenosine triphosphate, and these molecules are the energy molecules, gives the energy for the various activity. In substrate level, the photophosphorylation phosphate group is transferred to the ADP from the ATP, and it will be carried out with the help of the high energy organic compound. So you have to already studied that the several metabolic reactions yield energy rich molecule, that is the ATP, by the substrate level phosphorylation. However, it is important to note that only a small amount of ATP is synthesized in the cell by this pathway. So we are going to discuss this particular respiration in this today's lectures. So respiration is nothing but it is a biochemical process in which the cell of an organism obtain energy by the combining oxygen and glucose, resulting in the release of the carbon dioxide, water and ATP, the currency of the energy in the cell. So if you see this particular definition, you get idea about what is exactly the difference between the photosynthesis and respiration. In photosynthesis, we have seen that with the help of sunlight, the carbohydrate food material is produced, and in respiration, this particular carbohydrate food material is converted into the energy rich molecule, that is the ATP, by the oxidation reaction. So in living organism require this energy for the different processes. Energy required for the oxidation of the different macromolecules, which is a food of a living organism. Green plant and cyanobacteria, these all are the able to produce their own food material, and they are called as the autotrophs. But the animals such as the human being and insects are the heterotrophic organism, directly depend on the plant for their food material. And the saprophyte, these are the dead and decaying organism matter, that is the fungi. So and the green plant for photosynthesis only in the only in the cell with the help of the chloroplast, and translocation of occur in non-green plant. So outline of the photosynthesis and respiration is that the it occur in the chloroplast. The photosynthesis occur in the chloroplast. It is and produces the organic compound, and they break down of the molecule to yield energy-rich molecule, and it will be carried out in the mitochondria, that is the respiration. So compound oxidized respiratory substrate is used, that is the carbohydrate, protein, fats, and organic acid. All these are different compounds which are used as a respiratory substrate for the respiration. In oxidation, the stepwise reaction is carried out and controlled by the enzyme. The energy is trapped as a chemical energy, and it is the ATP. The ATP is a currency of the energy, and the carbon skeleton produces during the respiration synthesis of the different biomolecules, etc. Okay, so if you see this particularly mechanism of the respiration, the plants require the oxygen for the respiration. No specialized organ for the gaseous exchange, but they have the stomata and the lenticels for the respiration mechanism and gaseous exchange. The reason why the plant does not need the respiratory organs, because each plant part take care of its own gas exchange need, and this is a very little transport of the gases from one plant part to the another plant. So another part of this particularly plant. So if you see this particularly plant cell structure, there is a particularly transfer of the gases exchange will be carried out. So in plant do not present great demand for the gases exchange. The respiration in the plant is far low than the animal. So oxygen required will be made by the photosynthesis, where the oxygen will be directly released into the cell. And the diffusion of the gases, it is very less, and in living cell located close to the surface of the plant. For example, the thick wood stem cell, living cell are organized as a thin layer beneath bark, and the opening of the lenticels are the most of the cell part contact with the air. Loose packaging of the parenchyma cell in the leaves, stem, and the roots, etc. provide an interconnected network of air spaces. So if you see this particularly reaction of the breakdown of the carbohydrate food material, the energy is completely combustion or the catabolize of the glucose. So in this reaction, this is carbohydrate food material in presence of the oxygen break down into the carbon dioxide, water molecules, and energy molecules, that is the ATP is released. So catabolism of the glucose, several small steps, and energy released in the couple of the synthesis of the ATP. All organism catabolism, oxidation of the glucose, retain the enzymatic machinery, which is a partially oxidized glucose without the help of the oxygen to the pyruvic acid, that is the glycolysis. So in this particularly mechanism, glycolysis is one of the most important thing in the respiration. In this glycolysis, the glucose molecule is break down into the energy rich molecule, that is the ATP and others. Okay, so all this particularly respiration mechanism is carried out with the help of a specialized structure called as a mitochondria. So if you see this particular diagrammatic representation, it is the section of the mitochondria in which you have just see that the outer membrane is there and inner membrane is there. In outer and inner membrane, there is a inner membranous space is there in which the different biochemical material is given out, and it will be taken out with the help of this particular intercellular mechanism. Then there are the different projections are there. These projections are called as the cristae, and on that particular cristae the ribosomes are there. So these particularly ribosomes are having a specialized structure, and there is a DNA, the mitochondrial DNA is also there, and in this particular cristae the matrix is there. So matrix contain the different biochemical material which are required for the process of the mitochondria, and different enzymatic enzymes which are required for the process of the respiration, they are present in the mitochondria. So this is exactly the structure of the mitochondria where the respiration mechanism is carried out. Now see this particularly description of the structure of mitochondria. The mitochondria are bounded by the double membrane envelope, which is provided a good tensile strength, stability and flexibility to them. So this membrane gives the strength to the this particularly organ, that is mitochondria. The outer and the inner membrane are the 60 to 70 angstrom thick, and the two membranes are separated by the inner membranous space, that is a 60 to 70 angstrom. So all these particularly two membranes are get separated from each other, and there is an inner membranous space which is very important for the different reactions. Then the innermost compartment remain filled with the matrix, and the matrix contains the lipid, protein, cellular, DNA, 70S ribosomes and certain granules. So this matrix is containing the different enzymes which are required for the process of the respiration. Then the next part, that is types of respiration. So the term metabolism is used to describe all the chemical reactions involved in the maintaining the living state to the cell and the organism. So it can be conveniently divided into the two categories, that is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Name itself indicate the different types of the respiration. So one by one we are going to discuss these particularly two types of the respiration. Aerobic respiration takes place in presence of the free oxygen. So name aerobic, it itself indicate that there is a presence of the oxygen. When this respiration mechanism is carried out in presence of the oxygen, it is called as a aerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, complete oxidation of the glucose takes place, and the end product of the aerobic respiration are the carbon dioxide, water, energy molecules, that is 686 kilocalorie energy molecules are produced. Then the large amount of the energy is released, that is 36 ATP molecules per glucose molecule. So when one glucose molecule is breakdown in aerobic respiration, it produces the 36 ATP molecules. Then first steps of aerobic respiration is the glycolysis, takes place in the cytoplasm, while the next step takes place in the mitochondria. So this particular aerobic respiration takes place in higher organisms. Okay, so if you see this particular fifth number point, that is it tells us that the respiration takes place in the particular two-step reaction. The first step is initiated into the cytoplasm, and then it will be carried out, that is the glycolysis will be carried out. And then next type is the anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration takes place in the absence of the free oxygen. Then in anaerobic respiration, the glucose molecule is incompletely broken down. Then the end product of the anaerobic respiration is ethyl alcohol, or the lactic acid, and the carbon dioxide, and the little energy is produced, that is the 56 kilocalorie. A small amount of the energy is released, that is the 2 ATP molecules per glucose molecule is released in anaerobic respiration. Complete anaerobic respiration occur in cytoplasm, and it takes place in lower organism like the yeast and the muscles of the human beings. So if you compare this particularly aerobic and anaerobic respiration, you get a difference, that is a large amount of energy is produced in aerobic respiration, while a little amount is produced in the anaerobic respiration. And this particularly aerobic respiration takes place in this particularly two-step reaction, that is the glycolysis, and in the cytoplasm also it will be completed, and but the anaerobic respiration is completed within this particular mitochondria only, and this particularly aerobic respiration takes place in the higher organism, but this anaerobic respiration is carried out in the lower organism, that is the yeast and the muscles of the human beings. Okay. Now, the next part of this particularly respiration is the respiratory substrate. Substrate means what? On which particularly material, or on which particularly this particularly reactions, this particularly respiratory material will be useful for the mechanism of the respiration. So the organic substrate which are organized in the cellular respiration for the release of the energy is called as respiratory substrate. So see this particularly respiratory substrate concept, that is the substrate or the material on which the respiratory respiration mechanism is carried out. So carbohydrate, fats, proteins and organic acids are used as a respiratory substrate. So see this particularly process of the mechanism of the anaerobic respiration, it is the process of the release of the energy in especially control stepwise incomplete degradation of the organic food without oxygen being used as a oxidants. Okay, so this anaerobic respiration, it is carried out, it is incomplete degradation of the organic material is there. Then therefore it is the end product are never completely inorganic. Then the term anaerobic respiration is oftenly used in the connections with the higher organisms where it is occur in root of the some waterlogged plants and muscles of the animals, and supplementary mode of the respiration in massive tissues. Okay, the next and most important point, it is the glycolysis or the EMP pathway. This particularly is a very important point, and we are going to discuss this point in the next lectures. Okay, so if you have any queries, then you can just ask. Thank you very much.